Okay, so it's been about a month or so since I finished Xenosaga Episode 3, and I've been meaning to make this video about it ever since, but just kind of haven't. It's it is I can be completely honest, it is not a situation of I really don't fucking want to do this. I don't want to talk about this fucking game. And it's just more of like I've had my notes ready for weeks. I've been like, cool. I want to make the video. Well, I don't really want to make it right now. There's kind of some other shit I really want to do. I'll make it later today. And then later today happens, and then I'm like, we can do it tomorrow. Rinse and repeat for about 4 fucking weeks. So I'm like, all right, we have to do this. Do it now. Get something to eat. Talk about. I probably should have gotten a bottle of water. Fuck. Never mind. We're going to keep going. And if there's a point where I get really thirsty, I'll pause, go get some water, and keep going. But yes, I played through Xenosaga Episode 3. I played through Episode 1, Episode 3, and in between, I watched the cutscenes from 2 because I really didn't want to play Xenosaga 2. Everything I'd heard about the game made it sound like it was ass. Just from, like, I played through the prologue, and just looking at it, I didn't like the new art style. And the little bit I heard from the new voice actors, I'm like, it's not that they're inherently bad, it's just weird, because after about 30 plus hours of hearing them like this, I now am hearing them like this, and my brain doesn't like that. It's like when I was watching Ice Queendom dubbed, I'm like, no, these voices belong to the 3D models. I gotta watch the sub real quick. But we are finally done. And of all the game projects that were on my list for this year, and not including VNs, I feel like Xenosaga was one of the really big ones. And there's something kind of thematic about me having this video that I've been meaning to record for a few weeks, but just haven't gotten around to it because that's been my experience with Xenosaga 1. Except it wasn't a few weeks, it was several fucking years, until finally I said, no, we're doing it. I can't wait to get to it and play it. Regarding 3 specifically, it does fix several issues I had with the first game. Number 1, I like the art style a lot more, because like I do find the art style to the first game charming, but it took a while to get into it. I remember first playing, I was like, this ain't it, Chief. This looks kind of fucking ugly. As it went on, it grew on me. But 3, I'm able to put it in and go, no, this looks great. This looks perfectly fine. Get this, characters have skill trees. And when you look in a character's skill tree, you can actually look at later shit in the skill tree and not only see what crazy shit they can possibly learn by going on this path, you can also learn what the fuck the ability does without learning it first. I know that sounds really intuitive, but I have to point it out because Xenosaga 1 didn't work like that. It was just, this is where you're at the skill tree. Where do you want to go? I want to go this far? No, you can only go right in front of you. Oh, okay. What does this ability do? Buy it and find out. Why are you like this? This is actively stupid. I also like that you can not only get shit through the skill tree, you can get abilities just by leveling up. I think that's really nice. I felt like I was getting abilities through the skill tree a lot faster than I was in Xenosaga 1. So that was really nice. Like I said, it feels like a lot of issues I had were fixed. That being said, it's not a 1,000-year door scenario for me where I'm like, oh my god, you fixed every problem I had with the first game to the point where I don't know if I could go back and play the first game. I still have a lot of love for the first Paper Mario, don't get me wrong, but I feel like 1,000-year door for me is just that like marked of an improvement. I don't quite feel that with Xenosaga 3 because there's still some elements of Xenosaga 1, particularly its combat, that I do prefer. I like the I like the turn order bonuses, and I like it's how I have to really maximize the efficiency of my turns which I don't really feel that quite as much in 3. I still enjoy the turn-based combat. I think it's a fun system. I don't think it's quite as fun as the system in 1, although I think the bosses are better designed because they're not just, here's the really stupid bullshit that the boss can do. It's just, I mean, I think some of them maybe did. But for the most part, it's like, no, like, the boss may or may not have a gimmick, but they're also a boss. They are going to give you trouble if you're playing like an idiot. And I enjoy that in turn-based combat. There are some, also boosts. And I know this is something that started with 2. Instead of each individual character having a boost gauge, it's just a party boost gauge, which is also what you use to use your special attacks instead of the AP system. And there's a part of me that goes, I like that because I don't inherently love the AP system, but on the other hand, I'm like, I actually did kind of enjoy the AP system. It, again, like with how really tactical and efficient I felt like I had to be in Xenosaga 1 combat, I feel like that worked really well. Like, yeah, some of the systems are kind of weird, but they all work together to make a system that, as I said in the Xenosaga 1 video, and I'm saying now, I thought was really, really fun once I was able to sink my teeth into it and really understand how it worked. I don't think Xenosaga 3 is quite as rewarding, although it is still quite fun. I feel like the main takeaway I had after finishing Xenosaga 3 is I kept comparing it to Evangelion. And not in a way where I'm like, well, this is like Eva but worse, or this is like Eva but better, but I was like, fighting giant space monsters. You have mechs. There's this emotionless, blue-haired girl who's one of your main characters. You have the main character who has a very toxic relationship with the man in her life. With Shinji, it's his dad. With Shion, it's Kevin. And it's because of all the pressures that are on her, she's starting to slowly break down. And you feel really bad for this person, but there's also times where you kind of think, hey, like, I know you're going through a lot right now. You do need to snap out of this. A lot of Christian imagery, a lot of imagery with the fucking actually, what's the... No, yeah, there is the cross imagery in Ava, because every time you blow up an angel, there's the fucking cross. I don't think... What did the Sele things look like? Because I don't think they were very cross-like. Not like the Zohar. I think there was another couple, because I had written some of them down. Oh yeah, there's a shadowy organization that wants to become like a god. That's one. I feel like Ormus wasn't really trying to become god. That was more of Yuriev's thing, but there were definitely some moments where I was like, Ormus is giving me some Sele vibes, or maybe it's the other way around. I think Ava came out first. I could be wrong about that. Let's see. Biblical references out the wazoo. Yeah, that was it. I was like, there's a surprising amount of comparisons to Ava, whether intentional or not. And like Ava, it's something I feel like I can genuinely say, I like this a lot, and I'm really glad I played it / watched it. I feel like there's times where it gets in its own way with some of its more philosophical musings, or, again, a lot of the biblical references. We're going to be full spoilers. Like, I feel like I should get into the habit of really saying that in my videos, because a lot of times I just kind of assume that I know I'm doing full spoilers, and I don't say it, so if you watch one of my videos and you get spoiled on something like that, I do apologize. I mean, Cosmos is... Sorry, I've been playing Kingdom Hearts lately, so I'm like, she's the heart... Oh, this is some Kingdom Hearts shit. Okay, how do I put this in Kingdom Hearts terms? Mary Magdalene was the human. Cosmos is her heart. Telos is her body. So Telos is the nobody of Mary Magdalene. And Cosmos is her heartless, but when the awakening happens, she gains her heart back, kind of like how Sora became a heartless, there's the Keyblade, became a heartless in KH1, but got his heart back. But then in later games and lore, and by later I mean fucking Kingdom Hearts 2, which is the third game, because Kingdom Hearts is a mess, you learn that a person's body becomes a nobody, which means Sora shouldn't have his body there in Hollow Bastion, because his body was still existing, and for some reason looked like Ven, because Ven was in Sora the entire fucking time, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And even that shit, you're like, why the fuck does Roxas look like Ven? Well, because Ven's heart was in Sora, don't you know? Okay, but Roxas is explicitly Sora's nobody, and he's Sora's body. Why did Sora's body not look like Sora, guys? Like, come on, Nomura. I love Kingdom Hearts. I promise. I swear. Actually, like the other day, by the other day I meant yesterday, was thinking, what are the Disney movies that haven't been represented yet in Kingdom Hearts? And how would I like to see that? And that's a video I want to make. I actually want to make it really soon, because I'm doing the data fights in 3, and some of them are really fun, and some of them are really fucking ass, so I just have Kingdom Hearts on my brain, and fuck, I can't talk about Xenosaga without going, okay, Mary Magdalene's nobody, but getting back to the point, that's a plot point. And I'm just kind of going, okay? And not in a sense where I'm going, oh my gosh, you're using Mary Magdalene, a biblical character. This is heresy. This is blasphemy. I'm just like, okay? Do I think this is cool? Do I think this is just silly? It's kind of both. I just don't think it really means anything. Like, let me put it like this. If you take out that whole Mary Magdalene thing, and it really is just, I made a super robot, and then I made another super robot, and these two robot girls are fighting each other, in a sense for kind of supremacy over who is the original, or it's like, who is the one that truly deserves to be. I think that's fine. I think that can really work. And almost the sense of, like, Cosmos, you have a very specific directive with greater plot shit, but Cosmos starts to, kind of, again, using Kingdom Hearts logic here, really kind of starts to develop her own heart with her relationship with Xion, which I really don't see as romantic, although the goodbye they had at the end, I was like, I could see it there. I could really see it there. But it's mostly because of, part of it is Xion is just thirsting for Kevin half the game. I don't think she has the capacity to feel love or attraction to Cosmos. But really, the relationship they have in the first game is, this is like a mother-daughter, and also important person and her bodyguard. And I just don't quite see the romance there. But there's a couple moments in 3 where I'm like, this feels like a different writer is writing this scene. And I don't inherently mind it. But now it's making some of the mother-daughter stuff feel really, really icky. I wish this was a little more consistent with this relationship, because I think either is fine, both together is weird. But to my point, it's like the Mary Magdalene thing, like, yeah, that's fine, but I don't know how much it really adds. Like, oh shit, that's crazy. This is the best thing ever. Like, oh, okay, that's... Huh? Okay. Sure, dog. I still don't know what the fuck the Zohar even does. I just know it looks like the cross. There's 12 of them or 13 of them? Because I remember each one of them had the name of one of the disciples written on it. You're like, oh, that's kind of a neat thing as someone who knows the Bible. But again, does that really mean anything? No. The, what are they called? The ESs, the mechs in this game, they're named after the children of Israel. There's a Zebulun. There's an Asher. There's a Reuben. Like, oh, I get that. That's really cool. And the other one is Dina, which is the sister of all of the brothers. And she is the one who was raped, I believe, by this one dude. And I think the dude said, okay, like, I want to marry her and welcome her, like, into our tribe. And two of her brothers, Simeon and Levi, who, if I remember correctly, was the second oldest and the third oldest of all the brothers, had said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Fuck that guy and all of his people for what they did to our little sister. If you want to marry our sister, well, here's what you have to do. You have to become circumcised. Then we'll actually accept you. So the guys all get themselves circumcised. And Simeon and Levi are rubbing their hands together like, okay, now that they're circumcised, so they're recovering from putting a knife to their dicks, we're going to go slaughter them. And they fucking did. And Jacob, also, at that point, I believe he was known as Israel, was really fucking pissed. He's like, I get that you're mad, but we had a discussion about this afterwards, and what they did was really shitty, but they were trying to make up for it, so why did you guys go and do that? And I believe when he's giving his blessings to his sons, because he starts with Reuben, he's like, Reuben, you're my firstborn, you're the, proof of my manhood. You also slept with a woman I slept with. You slept with one of your brother's mothers, because it was 2 wives, Leah and Rachel, and at least 2 concubines. There's maybe 3. I think it was 2. He's like, you slept with one of them. That's not cool. You're not going to get the super blessing. Simeon and Levi, you 2 crazy sons of bitches. And then Levi gets the tribe with all the priests, so Levi's like super important. He's like, you crazy sons of bitches, you ain't getting shit. My 4th born, Judah. Yeah, I'm going to give great shit to Judah. Kings will come from Judah's reign. The Lion of Judah. Judah becomes its own country, blah, 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 blah. And Judah's in the back of his head going, thank God that Dad doesn't know I'm the one who wanted to throw Joseph in the hole, because I wouldn't have gotten shit. And then when I went to number 5, I don't know who number 5 is. I want to say, is it Zebulun? Maybe? I don't think it's Asher. I think Zeb is right before Asher. No, I think Gad is right before Asher. I think Naphtali is like number... I think Dan and Naphtali are about 10 and 11. Anyway, sorry. I know I'm trying to talk about Xenosaga. I've already gone on, 2, maybe 3 tangents already? Just, here's a few for the bingo card. My point is, all of this biblical dressing, to me it feels more like window dressing than shit that's actually super interesting. But sometimes I'm like, oh, that is kind of fun window dressing. And other times, I don't really know what we're doing here. But when we're actually focusing on the cast, like getting into Shion's mental state and her backstory and like some of the backstories of other characters, like you don't really get a lot from Momo and Junior in this game. I mean, Junior gets a little bit because of Dimitri. Like, there's like this one part where he really does. For the most part, he doesn't. But that's because 2 happened, and you get a lot from Junior. Junior's the main character of 2. Momo gets a lot in 2. Albedo gets a lot in 2. And I feel like, yeah, when I'm actually focusing on the characters and some of the space politics, I find myself really invested. While all the other stuff just kind of takes me out of it and goes, huh, that's kind of neat, or that's kind of weird. Okay. And in that regard, to me, it reminds me quite a bit of Ava. I love following Shinji and his story. I love following Asuka and her story. I think these are both equally fascinating characters. Ava also gets in its own way. There's a reason I don't like the Rebuild movies very much. But with all that being said, it's 20 minutes. I haven't even actually said and haven't even gone into presentation and shit yet. Presentation! So something I think is really good about this game is it has a boss theme, because the first game doesn't. The first game is just, this is the battle theme and here's the final boss theme. And I don't like that. I said that during the game. Like, I really like the battle theme. I like the battle theme in 1 a lot more than I do here. Here, I think the battle theme is fine here. It doesn't hit the same, though. But I like that I actually have a boss theme now. And I felt like a lot in 1, there wasn't really a lot of background music. Cutscenes? Absolutely. It felt like they went off making the soundtrack to the cutscenes. But in Dungeons, a lot of the things that I remember is just ambient sound. And there was times where it kind of worked, but at the same time, like, I want to hear music when I'm exploring the game. Why are you like this? Did not have that problem in 3. There's actual music in Dungeons. There's actual music when you're exploring the overworld. Like, this should not be a novel concept. It's something I take for granted, and thanks. I mean, thanks for delivering on that. So that's really nice. One thing about the presentation I really don't like, though, are the loud-ass footsteps. I don't remember this being a problem at all in 1. Like, when a character is, like, doing their walking animation, which is generally, like, they're running, I don't hear them fucking echoing from the other side of the room. In Xenosaga 3, they are galumphing. It is clop, 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 clop. It is fucking echoing. They're talking about how it's like, man, we really need to sneak and be quiet. Goo, 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 goo. Why? It's just distracting. I don't like it. And it feels like a minor thing, and I won't deny it. Yeah, in terms of everything that's going on in this game, this is not a huge thing, but believe it or not, you do a lot of walking in the game, in the overworld, and in dungeons, so I'm just constantly hearing these loud-ass echoing footsteps, and it annoyed the fuck out of me. I can't lie. Another thing about presentation that annoyed the fuck out of me is the camera. In the first game, I don't think I ever complained about the camera. I would enter a room, because I don't think you had any control of it, and you don't hear it as well, but I felt like the camera was always at an angle where I could see around my character, which is, generally speaking, Shion. But I could see what was in front of me, what was around me. When I was turning a corner, I could see what was going on there when I was walking forward. It's not like, all right, my character is right here, so I can't see anything down the path. It's like, I can see. It wasn't a problem. Not the case in 3. It feels like it's always so fucking it's not that it's always so close, because there's times where it's far back away enough. But there's times like I'm turning a corner and I literally can't see what's there, so I just run into an enemy. Or I'm walking down a hallway. It's zoomed in right on my character, so I can't see shit. I'm like, this is really stupid. Why is the camera in this? Why are the angles in this game so fucking terrible? And why are these footsteps so loud? It bothered me. It bothered me so much. But you know what didn't bother me? The voice acting. I think the voice acting was quite fucking good. I'm trying to think of like a specific scene. Oh, one thing I will say is after Cosmos has her awakening, I noticed a distinctive change in her voice acting. She sounded a lot more human and a lot less robotic. And I just think that's really cool. I think that's really good. I do think there are good performances all around. Oh god, speaking of performances, there were some performance issues with the game. Not a lot, but some. One I have to bring up that I don't believe is the fault of the game at all. I can't take points off for this. It was just something that marred my experience. There were times when I was playing and the screen would kind of start flickering and then would just go off. The game was still running. I could still hear it. I could hear the music. If it was a cutscene, I could still hear the dialogue. But it just would go black, and if I was in a fight, I couldn't play. If I was exploring a dungeon, I couldn't move. And there was just kind of no telling when it would happen. It just did. I don't know why. I feel like I should bring it up, but I acknowledge it's not the game's fault. I can think of 2 instances, there might have been a third, but there were for sure 2, where in the middle of a cutscene, the game just stopped. Like, I could hear it chugging inside the PlayStation, but it wasn't running anymore. It was the end of, I believe it's chapter 3. It's either chapter 2 or chapter 3. It's the first fight between Cosmos and Telos. That partway through the fight, it just stopped, and I had to skip the cutscene and then watch it later. The other time was the end credits. I was like, yeah, I finished this game. I finished this series, at least to a point where I am content with it. Because like I said, I don't really want to play 2. I want to enjoy the credits. And as the credits are rolling, it just freezes. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm skipping the credits. Which, thank goodness, I could do. I mean, at that point, like, the game was done, so I could have just turned it off. But, like, I don't even get to enjoy the credits of this game that I've been playing. What the fuck? Is that the biggest issue in the world? No. The footsteps and shitty camera are way worse. But it's something I feel like I still have to bring up, like, if I'm being honest. I also don't really know where else to put this. It's not a gameplay thing. It's almost a story thing. But there's this one cutscene. It's after beating Telos the second time, and she and Cosmos are like having a fight, and Cosmos is doing some cool shit. Her top, which, I mean, she's a robot. She's not really wearing... It's actually a good question. Does Cosmos wear clothes? Because I always just kind of assumed that's just the way she's designed. Like, it's not clothing, it's armor, but then there's this fucking knife that just like cuts open her top, and then she has a fucking cannon by her boobs, and then it fixes itself, so they are clothes? Because like, I knew about that scene, I knew about the boob knife, and it's weird, and I don't know, I don't really know where else to put it, but I liked it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Cosmos is very attractive. Presentation, if I'm being honest, like, it is a 4 out of 5. I feel like most things it does right. I do like the music quite a bit. I'm glad there is more music. And like, yeah, the cutscene music is also really good. I don't think the performance issues were notable a couple times, but not really. The bigger performance issue was the TV thing, and I don't think that's on the game, so I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I just really, really, really hated the camera. Not always, because there's times where it was perfectly fine, but it was annoying as hell enough to bother me. And the loud ass footsteps. Like, yeah, between those 2 things, you're losing a point. But I'm not going to take anything else off because the rest of the presentation is just that good. So moving on to the gameplay. So, there are a lot of improvements. As I mentioned earlier, the way the fucking skill tree works, I can see the later things, I can figure out what they do so I know what I really want or versus like the things I don't want as much. That's an improvement, and it should have been something that's there in the fucking first place. The boost mechanic, I'm not going to necessarily say it's an improvement because I liked each person having their own personalized boost gauge. However, I do think it's more balanced. I can't just kind of keep ping-ponging between my characters until an enemy says, fuck you, I'm going to boost now. Because that is one thing I don't like about the first game. I don't mind that enemies can boost. That's perfectly fair. What I don't like is how I can hit an enemy and the enemy can do a boost that has precedence. But if an enemy hits me, my boost won't have precedence. I think that's bullshit. And also, an enemy can do that and then go again. And that didn't ever seem like something I was actually able to do. I thought that was bullshit. That doesn't really feel like the case here. The lack of AP, again, as I mentioned earlier, I like it in terms of Xenosaga 1 because it feels in line with the more slow-paced tactical combat. Here, again, it's still turn-based, so it's still slower than playing Kingdom Hearts or Devil May Cry. It's still tactical. But I feel like I don't super miss the lack of AP, and having the boost gauge not only be for the whole party and for boosting, but it's also how you use special attacks. I think that's a bit more balanced. Like, do you want to use it for direct offense? Do you want to use it to be more... How do I want to say it? Because I feel like using a boost, there's times where it feels very defensive, like I need to get a heal, I need to get a buff up, or I don't want to pop a special attack, but I do want other characters to be able to go and do shit depending on the circumstance. Like if Momo has, what was it called? Like Blood Dancer? Maybe that was Cosmos's really powerful. I don't remember what it was called. But the one that just gives her a lot of buffs. Like, yeah, I don't want to use a boost on a special attack when I could just have Momo go a few times in a row. You know, the thing I said you can't really do in 1, it feels like you can really do in 2. And it just, in 3, maybe in 2 as well, I don't know. And just have a character pop off. I felt like mech combat was a lot better. You can actually use items on mechs now. Maybe in the first game there were specific items you could use on mechs. No, because I don't think you could, because I think those items existed, but you could only use them outside of combat, if I'm remembering correctly. Here, you could use them in combat. Your mechs didn't run out of ammo. They also were a lot more powerful. I'll be honest, I still don't love mech combat. Oh gosh. No, you know what? We're going to put a giant pin in the wall. I don't love mech combat, but I do think it's better than it is in the first game. I did mention that I feel like skills feel a lot easier to get, which I enjoy. I like that sense of character progression and being able to see them do like more cool, crazy shit. I have to talk about Momo's glow up. I did not use her in the first game. The problem with Momo is it seemed like she was kind of meant to be this high-risk, high-reward character, because I know she had 1 to 2 transformations where she would become a magical girl, and I assume she could just blow shit up. The problem is, she's incredibly frail and super fucking weak, and because of the way Xenosaga 1, and I don't know if 2 is like this, but the way it works is you have your front and your back line characters. If Momo's in the back line, all she can do is heal. You can't have someone in the back line casting spells and blowing shit up, which, is generally what backline fighters do. So I thought that was always kind of a mess. And if she's in the front line, she's so fucking frail that if something sneezes on her, she is going to die and is just not doing the damage to compensate for it, especially because of the AP system where she has to hit things to get her better abilities. Unless, she has ether shit, which... Unless she has her ether spells, but to have the ether spells, she has to have enough skill points to get them, and if she's on the bench, she's not going to be getting a lot of those skill points, so she's not going to be getting a lot of those spells. But if she's on the front line and actually in combat and fighting, she will get more of those skill point XP, but she's kind of dead weight in the party. Momo, I felt, was useless in the first game. Momo was the fucking MVP of 3. I had her in the party all the time. She was the black mage. She was blowing shit up. She was using single target nukes, multi-target nukes, special attacking nukes, and then at the end of the game, after, again, I think it was called Blood Dancers, it's like, yeah, her damage is just gonna skyrocket for a few turns. Absolute unit. My party for the most part. Early game, Jin, Xion, Momo. Momo for black magic, Jin for physical damage, Xion mostly for healing and support with a little bit of damage here and there. Once I got Cosmos, I pretty much just benched Jin. Nothing against Jin, but I mean, I'm gonna fucking use Cosmos. However, as the game went on, I started working Ziggy into it too. Sometimes instead of Momo, sometimes instead of Coast, sometimes instead of Shion, just depending on the situation, because his physical damage was really high, and he's a tanky motherfucker. Also, the way he has this one attack that only works on human enemies called Choke, where he'll get behind an enemy, put them in a chokehold, they'll struggle for a bit, and then he snaps their neck, and then you just see the life leave their eyes as they slink down. And let me tell you, doing that to Dmitry Yuriev is really satisfying and really funny. I won't say it's satisfying, but seeing him do it to Shion in one particular boss fight is kind of fucking funny. It's just because of how weird it feels to be fighting Shion. I'll talk about that more when we get to the actual narrative shit. I feel like I'm kind of torn on what I think about Shion in that scene, but I'm mostly positive toward her. But I still kind of hate her for it at the same time. It's like I feel like it's one of those, I understand your mindset, I don't have to like it. So no, that really was it. I was like, I don't have to like you here. So it actually was kind of cathartic. Like, I'm sorry, Shion, but I'm not that sorry. We are going to kick your ass, and then we're going to beat the shit out of Kevin, because fuck Kevin. It does feel really, really good to beat his ass. And then, of course, when you're doing his boss fight, and he's like, hey, you know what I fucking hate about this game? Now that I'm actually remembering it, so you fight Telos, Cosmos gets this new ability, or like, yeah, she gets her super duper ultra powerful attack, and it's a fire based attack, and it was like gargantuan damage. The next boss you fight is like, yeah, I think he was immune to fire, like fire heals him. Oh cool, I guess I don't get to use it here. The next boss you fight, which is the final boss for a good chunk of it, is also immune or like heavily resistant to fires. I'm like, you just gave me this really cool thing and I didn't get a chance to use it. What the fuck? Like, I forgot how upset that made me, because I wanted to see it do cool shit. But anyways, yeah, I used a lot of Momo, Cosmos, Shion, and Ziggy in some capacity. When did I start using Ziggy? I don't remember. I think it was kind of near the end of Disc 1, and I really liked that 4-person lineup. I didn't use a lot of Jin. I really didn't use Chaos and Junior. They just didn't do it for me when they were in the party, so I just stopped buying equipment for them. It's like, money's kind of tight with how expensive some of this shit is. I'm gonna use it on the people I actually fucking use. Sorry, boys. Like I said, I don't love the mech combat. I didn't really love the mech boss fights. The boss fights when you're on foot, though, for the most part, I really, really liked, and I thought were a ton of fun. Oh, sorry, I was like, what the fuck does that say? Okay. Chapter 8 of Xenosaga Episode 3, in terms of pure gameplay, not story, I feel like is one of the worst segments of any JRPG I have ever played. It was so long. And being a long section or a long chapter is not an inherently bad thing. There's a lot of really long chapters in Trails in the Sky SC, particularly near the end. And they're great. And I love them. Chapter 8 of Xenosaga 3 feels like it is specifically designed to waste your time. You do this mini dungeon that has I don't even want to say a lot of backtracking, because it's not a huge dungeon. But for a dungeon so small, I shouldn't be backtracking through 90% of it almost the entire time I'm playing it. It's annoying. Then you go on to the, I don't know if I mentioned that enemies don't respawn in this game. That is something I really like about it. The first one doesn't do. But then you go to the Durandal for a dungeon. And there's this one part where there's a bunch of locked doors and you have to do some shit to unlock the doors. And then to get into those rooms, you have to, it's not just like, cool, you unlock the door, now you can go into the room. Now you go to the door, hey, you have now specifically unlocked the door. And then the door will open. It's just, I already unlocked it. I don't have to unlock it a second time. It's just this little thing it does to make the game just a few little bits longer. But there's like 10 of them. And so it starts to really add up and just annoy me. And then there's this one part in the Durando where I'm like, I want to go back to a save point, because it's another thing I really like about this game is save points fully heal your HP and your MP or EP, excuse me, which is, again, is something they didn't do in 1. It's one of the only times and areas in the game where enemies did respawn. And I remember getting, like, I got ambushed by an enemy because I didn't think it would still be there, and because of the way the camera was facing, I couldn't fucking see it. I was able to get away or kill it, probably get away, because escape is 100% guaranteed. You don't need an ability or an item for it. Again, another improvement over the first game. There are a lot of improvements. And I was just thinking to myself, if I had been game overed, because I was ambushed by an enemy that I not only couldn't see because of the shitty camera, that I didn't know was there because I already killed it and enemies don't respawn, and I had to do all of that again. Ooh, boy, I would have been pissed. But I didn't have to be. So after these 2 mini dungeons, then you get to do the big dungeon, which consists of 4 little mini dungeons. And I don't even remember all of them, but okay, now I'm almost kind of starting to. There's this one Jack and the Beanstalk shit where you have to beat the shit out of this pillar and knock it into the air and then go all the way down and hit the thing to teleport. And it's just so slow and feels like it's just there to waste your time. And then you do it, and then you have to do it again. And then there's this other one with this weird tilt and tumble thing, and if you fall off, you have to do it again. And then if you get to the end of it, then you have to cross this area where you can't actually see the platforms, and you just kind of keep walking. Oh, I hit a dead end. Now let me bullshit around. Cool. Now there's another dead end. Let me bullshit around. And it just feels like it's wasting your time. And then there's this other part where you have to keep going back between being on foot and going into the mech and like, oh, I have to destroy this shit so the mech can go through. Go back to the mech side and then destroy this shit so my human part can go through. Then go back to this side. And it's just designed to waste your time. And then there's these little teleporty sections where you're like, all right, let me hit this thing, teleport over here, do the bullshit I have to do, then go back, hit the thing, get back over here, and then blah, 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 blah. By the way, I kept getting, hitting the wrong ones at times because I wasn't 100% sure of the layout because the way the camera was, I couldn't really fucking see it, and it's just designed to waste your time. Also in that chapter, after every one of these shitty mini dungeons, you fight a boss in the mech, which I didn't like and wasn't having fun because I don't enjoy the mech combat. I was like, I don't really understand it. I kinda do, but I don't like it. And then after all of that, you fight Dmitry Yuriev, and it's like a 25-minute fight, because this motherfucker feels like he has so much health and is resistant to almost everything. So, like, Momo isn't doing shit in this fight because I have her as a black mage and he's resisting all the elements. One of Cosmos' like more powerful shit doesn't work in the fight because he is resisting her fire, so I'm not able to do that much to him. And is he particularly hard? No, he's just designed to waste my time. Then you get phase 2 in the mech, which is ass because mech combat fucking sucks. And if you die, you have to fight Dmitry again. That's another 25 to 30 minutes just to do the next phase. Chapter 8 is dog shit. It is so fucking awful. And I knew I hated it. I didn't even realize I hated it this much because I can feel it. I can feel the... Good. Let the anger flow through you. Oh god, he has a black cloak. He 100% would be in Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora, let the darkness consume you and become us. Oh god, the Sith would be heartless. That's exactly how it would work. Oh, it's great. Oh, I needed that. I needed to think about Palpatine in Kingdom Hearts spouting some bullshit because it made me feel good. Because Chapter 8 of Xenosaga 3 doesn't. It is awful. It is not fun. And it is... Let me put it to you like this. My final time in the game was about 36 to 37 hours. That includes skipping some cutscenes because I had died to a boss, I had to refight the boss, and skip the cutscenes so I didn't have to watch them again. So I would say in terms of, if I included all those skipped cutscenes, it's probably closer to about 38, 39 hours. Again, not including having to refight bosses and shit. What was my point with that? Oh, I remember now. My point is, when I finished Disc 1, which was everything up to Chapter 7, my time was about 13 hours. The first, in terms of chapter count, like 2/3 of the game was about 1/3 of my total playtime. That's how long and time-wasty Chapter 8 is. Because Chapter 9 is lengthy. Like, there's a lot of sections to it. There's a lot of fights. But it doesn't feel like this is designed to waste my time. It just feels like it's the final area of a trilogy. There's a lot of dudes you gotta fight. There's little areas to explore. It doesn't feel all that bad. But 8 is so slow. It's so long, the fights are dog shit, and then at the very end, the longest, shittiest fight. I don't know if I'd say it's the shittiest fight in the series, because again, a lot of the fights in 1 just have a lot of jank to them, and not the really fun, charming jank like Ruby Volume 1. I mean, just like why the fuck did you do that? Like, okay, that's how I want to say it. It's not the charming jank of Ruby Volume 1. It's the jank of, like, Dream Drop Distance's fucking plot. Or I fucking hate it. You can tell I really do have Kingdom Hearts on the brain. What do I want to give gameplay? Because I feel like this is kind of how my head is, where my head is at. Foot-based gameplay, I would probably give a perfect score. I think it's a vast improvement over the first game. There's areas where I'm like, I like this more in the first game, but I'm not going to take points off because I think I do like the way these systems work. I like the way they interact. Are there some bosses that gave me a bit of trouble? Yeah, I remember having quite a bit of trouble fighting Virgil. Mostly because, like, when he's doing, like, his super attack, which, again, Kingdom Hearts, his DM. But, like, when he does his DM, I died to it a couple times. I think the first time I wasn't taking it as seriously, and the second time I was like, okay, I kind of want to explore how this works. Like, could I do this to get away with it? Could I do this? No, didn't work. Okay, got it. Like, kind of playing around with it, and then like, all right. Not that I wasn't taking the fight seriously, but I was like, okay, let me see if I can beat this before I go to bed. I was able to get it done. I had to be more cautious, but it worked. I did not mind having to fight him a couple times because I understood these are the mistakes I am making. Let me fix it. Let me learn. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot, whether it's turn-based or like action-y gameplay. I don't mind that. Okay, I kind of do because I don't really like playing Dark Souls. I personally don't find Dark Souls fun, but that's just because I don't like stamina gauges. That's why I don't mind playing Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is like, I like having to learn some of these boss fights, but not having a stamina gauge so I can block dodge, and attack as necessary. I love that. That extra limitation in Souls, for me, I don't find particularly fun. I get why people have a good time with it. I'm not someone that's like, yeah, these games are absolute trash. Anyone who plays them sucks. Like, no, that's stupid. But it is not for me. So foot-based combat, 5 out of 5. Mech combat, it's like a 3. I just don't like it. And I feel like, I think another problem I have is until chapter 8, it feels pretty fucking sparse. So like, all right, here's like a little section. Here's a little section. You're fighting a boss, but the boss isn't too crazy. The boss isn't too hard. So I didn't feel like I really had to put a lot of investment into the mechs or figuring out how they worked because I was just kind of going through it. Then you get to chapter 8, which is almost entirely mech combat. So I'm like, oh shit, I actually have to learn how this shit works. And I just kind of don't. And even now that I kind of am, I just don't enjoy it, like, almost at all. And every part of it is designed to waste my time. And the one boss I get to fight on foot is terrible. And it then has another dude. Like, chapter 8 is a fucking 0. It is the worst shit. So, how do I average this all out? Like, I have to take an entire point off for chapter 8 alone. I almost want to take more off. So that would be a 4. And I kind of want to take off another point for the mech combat in general. So that would leave it as a 3 out of 5, which almost feels too low for how fun the rest of the game is. So I almost want to say it's maybe a 3.5. But at the same time, I feel like 3 is very indicative of the quality of it. For the most part, it's really good and really fun. But the shitty parts are really, really shitty. And apparently was about 2/3, like almost an entire third of the actual game. So I think I'm going to go with a 3 out of 5. I have 3.5 written down. Talking through it, maybe I should do a 3.5. Essentially what I'm saying is chapter 8 is so bad, it loses about a 1.5. Because, again, like, I don't really like the mech combat, but it's at its worst and most egregious in chapter 8. So, yeah, I'll do that. Chapter 8 is so shitty, it loses a 1.5. That feels right. That feels right, because the rest of it fucking slaps. There we go. And now, an hour in, oh gosh. Now I could actually talk about the narrative and the characters. So a good chunk of the early narrative of the game, I don't want to say it like this because I feel like I'm almost demeaning the shit that happens, but they're kind of fetch quests. But I don't mind those. It's like, all right, what's the first big fetch quest? We gotta go save Cosmos because Cosmos is about to get scrapped because the Federation government is trying to do their own shit. They're like, well, we don't need Cosmos because we have Omega. And another faction is saying, well, we don't need Cosmos or Omega because we have Telos, and Telos is better Cosmos. So Cosmos is going to be scrapped for parts for Telos. So, you know, the body of Mary Magdalene and the heart of Mary Magdalene can come back and make Master Xehanort, I guess. But we go, save Cosmos. So it's not just like we're saving her parts. Like, no, like that's our homegirl. We got to go protect her. Then after that, we're also trying to go save the Elsa because the Elsa got caught in a planet's gravity. And I know that's something that makes sense. I'm not trying to say it in a way where it's like, that's bullshit. But I'm like, that's kind of what happened. But it's also not what happened. Because when you go to that planet to save the Elsa, you do go to a planet, you go to Mictum, but you're stuck in the past. And you get to meet young Xion and young Kevin and young Virgil and young Fibronia, and I loved everything with Virgil and Fibronia Because in the first game, she's brought up as this person who's like super important to Shion. I'm like, cool, I have no context for this. And in the second game, Shion is all like really fucking sad about it. And then Febronia's two sisters, she's like this. I don't remember what she fucking says, but she's talking about like how horrible this is and heart. I'm like, yeah, like this really sucks, but I have no context for why these people matter to you so much. I can tell that they do, but without that context, unfortunately, I'm not as invested here. Here, I get it. Virgil, I really do think this is my favorite part of the game, narratively speaking. Virgil is a soldier who hates Realians. And the reason he hates Realians is because he was in the war. He was brought to that church from, what is it called? The Blacephalon? Is that what it was called? The, like, Mindscape shit that you go into? No. Fuck. Isn't Blacephalon a fucking Ultra Beast? Isn't that the one with the fucking disco ball head? I think it is. What the fuck am I talking about? But anyways, those, like, Mindscape things that you could go to in the first game. Because you go into Cosmos' at one point, and that's when Shion and Junior fight that one boss that it's like, alright, if it goes after Junior, it does this. If it goes after Shion, it does this, and blah, 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 blah. You go to that same church, deliver Virgil there, and that is where Shion lives with little baby Shion lives with Kevin. And I'm not sure how old he is here, because Shion looks like she's 8? And I'm not sure if Kevin is supposed to be like 12 or 18. It feels like he is a teenager or a young adult, which makes me go, what is the age difference between the two of them? And how long has Kevin had an interest in Shion? Because it was always kind of clear to me that it wasn't just we're close co-workers, or I see him as like a mentor. I always got the romantic connection between Shion and Kevin. At the very least, she was interested in him, and then in this game, it's very clear, no, they were fucking. Like, cool, I don't have a problem with that, but what is this age difference? Because maybe I do. Maybe I should have a problem with this. I'm not sure, and it's making me feel a little icky. But the other person she lives with is Febronia, who really feels like she is Shion's caretaker. She is the caretaker of the church. And when Virgil goes there, he's like, Realian, don't touch me. You're a piece of shit. And she's like, but I'm not, though. I'm going to help you. And she's really fucking sweet to him, and Virgil starts to lower his guard, and they become really close. And, it's that trope of, like the injured soldier who gets taken care of by the enemy, and I love that shit. I just eat it up, And then a bunch of Realians attack, and Febronia fucking dies in that, and that's why Virgil hates Realians so much, because they took the woman he loved, even though she was a Realian, and I think he mentions, like, cannibalizing Realians is because he has Febronia's organs in him to, like, make sure that he's alive. Like, this shit is so interesting! And then after all that shit happens, you fight Virgil, and you beat him, and he's able to move on and go into the ever after with Febronia. I'm like, this is fantastic! I'm so invested in all of this! What the fuck? And in the first game, they talk about, I don't remember if, this was a thing you explored, because Shion and Cosmos at one point are exploring the hospital, or the area near the hospital where her mother died and her father died. And in this game, you find out it was never a hospital. It's just how Shion remembered it. It was a research facility. Her mom was not in the hospital because she was sick. She was being experimented on. And again, for me, this is one of those parts where I don't get as into it. It's like, why was she being experimented on? Because she had contact with Udu, and Udu is the manifestation of God interacting with people, and he's always watching, and he can interact with people. When he does, it'll start to drive them a little loco in the cocoa, and every time Cosmos is using her power because she gets it from Udu, Shion starts to die. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, what the fuck are we doing here? I don't super mind it, but I'm not nearly as invested in it. I'm sorry. I'm just not. And then it's revealed that Shion, after seeing her parents die as a little baby Shion, summoned the Gnosis, and I don't really know how she did that. It just happened. It's like, oh no, the reason the Gnosis are in the universe is because of me. What? I mean, I guess if the whole thing is she has contact with Udo, I guess it's like she was calling out to God for help, and God sent the Gnosis, but... Huh? The fuck? And they mentioned later it's super important that she has this pendant from Kevin because it's some MacGuffin, but I don't think she had the MacGuffin at that point, so huh? I feel like I'm not trying to intentionally oversimplify it to make it sound dumb. It's just a combination of I'm pretty sure I missed something, or if I didn't miss something, it just wasn't explained super well, and as a result, here's this really big, significant plot moment, and I'm just thinking, I don't understand how this happened. And not having the how is kind of bothering me and making me less invested. However, the part right after where Kevin's like, you see, Shion, this is, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you were going to destroy shit. You're the reason all this is going to happen. But if you stay with them and fight with Cosmos, you will die. But come with me, Kevin. I love you very much. And if you come with me and be rid of these fools, we can be together forever, and Cosmos and Telos will combine, and the Budokai Tenkaichi will finally be complete, and blah, 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 blah. And Alan just starts telling him to fuck off, and it's awesome, and he's like, Cosmos, go get Shion the fuck out of here so Kevin can't take her. And Kevin tells Kos to do something, I don't remember, he's like, bring Shion to me. So she goes over to Shion, grabs her, and starts running. She's like, no, Kevin, fuck you. What do you mean, fuck you? I'm your creator. No, you're not. I've had upgrades, bitch. And you know who gave me the upgrades? Shion Uzuki and Alan Ridgely. You know who they are? My creators. You know who you ain't? My creator. Just flips him off, grabs Shion, and dips. And fuck, it's cool. It's like, yeah, you tell him, Cosmo. Fuck that son of a bitch. And then you find out that you weren't in the past. You were in Shion's memory. Because that's what this whole planet was. Which again, like, that's stuff that happens in Xenosaga. It happened in the first game, so I can buy it. But also it's... Wait, I thought we were in another planet. We're just in Shion's palace? What? What the fuck? Okay. But also, while we're there, Shion keeps trying to change the past, and I want to see if I can actually save my parents. And I really liked that. It's one of those scenarios I always find really interesting. Like, Shion, you can't try to change the past. A, it just might not work. And two, what if it does? The ramifications could be crazy. I don't care. I want to save my family. Yeah, she's kind of getting herself into trouble. Like, you have to do all this shit to go save her. But I did like it, and I found it really interesting. It's like, I can really sympathize with Shion here. Let's see. Yeah, then pretty much after that, you have to deal with Dimitri, who's been there, but he's been kind of just doing his own shit. And he's like, cool, I'm going to be the main antagonist. I'm going to steal the spotlight real quick. And his whole thing is that he's scared of Udo, but he's like, I'm not actually that scared of Udo, blah, blah, blah. He's trying to become his gods. So you have to go deal with him, and you fight him, and this I feel like I am kind of glossing over and oversimplifying, because I'm going to be honest, A, I just didn't care, and 2, it's chapter 8. So anything I did care about was just marred by how much I hated playing it. But I will say, although I didn't use Junior in the fight, so I can't talk about how cathartic that was, Junior being able to tell his shitty dad to fuck off is great. And you do get some more closure with Albedo and Gainam. It's sad. These poor bastards. But there's an interesting kind of goodbye between Rubido and his brothers, and I think it's good shit. And, he had to get rid of Dimitri, so fuck him. Also, I know in Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed, when there's in that one city, there's a radio broadcast, and Dmitry Yuriev is explicitly name-dropped, confirming, no bullshit, that Xenosaga is canon to Xenoblade. And I believe that when Klaus hit the button, he is in the Xenosaga universe. And I remember playing Xenoblade 2 and thinking, what is up with these character designs? Because some of these characters are just anime characters, and they look like, they look like modern anime characters, and the others look like these PS2 era Xenosaga renders. And the dichotomy is fucking weird, and I still think the dichotomy is fucking weird. But I guess it's intentional because it's all canon to Xenosaga? And I think at the very end of Future Redeem, when you see that blue thing of light heading toward Earth, that's supposed to be Cosmos from the end of the game, and does that mean Kos is going to be in Xenoblade 4? Is there going to be a Xenoblade 4? I feel like this is a pretty definitive ending. Maybe not. Is there going to be a Xenosaga 4? Because from what I understand, the original idea for Xenosaga was it was going to be multiple sagas, and the only recurring characters in all these timelines were Kos and Chaos. So does that mean Xenoblade 4 is really going to be Xenosaga 4? Or Xenosaga 4 is going to be in the Blade universe? Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. But anyways, after you deal with Dimitri, you have to go deal with Ormus and shit. And Ormus is being headed by Wilhelm, who is also the head of Vector. And I kind of enjoyed that. It's Wilhelm is barely in the first game. I don't think he was really in the second game either. So it's kind of that experience of, I know who you are, but I don't really know who you are, so how much should I care? And then he says, yeah, I'm one of the most important people in the universe. I founded Vector so I could do all this shit with it, and I'm also the head of Ormus, so I'm doing a lot of shit here. I was also a chairman, or it was the president or some shit of the foundation at some point, so I could do a lot of shit here. I have my hand in every fucking cookie jar in the universe. Okay, I should care. That's actually kind of fucking cool. It's also, I'm the head of the Testaments, which, we've seen that throughout 3. So I think what helped is I've been seeing him enough in 3 so that when this reveal happened, it wasn't just a cool, why should I care, who are you? Okay, I really do know who this dude is. And I know he's the CEO of Vector. We've been talking about how Vector's been doing some really shady shit for years. So I thought it was actually a pretty cool reveal. So if I'm understanding it correctly, the universe is... Wilhelm reminds me a lot of Kyubey from Madoka Magica. The universe has a time limit. And I don't want us to hit that time limit. And I'm going to do what I can to stop it. Kyubey's plan is creating more entropy because of thermodynamics and blah, 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 so making magical rules and blah, 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 blah. Wilhelm's plan is, I am going to hit, not the history eraser button, but the history redo button. And I don't know how far back it goes, but it's essentially, we as humanity are going to redo this shit. So the universe doesn't die. And maybe on this reset, we'll get closer to figuring out how to stop it. Or I will get to a point where I believe humanity can stop it. Or humanity will so thoroughly reject this stagnation that I won't be able to put the reset button, and it is in their hands whether they can destroy it or whether they can stop the universe's erasure or not. With the and she knows. With the implication being he's hit this reset button a lot. And I believe he is aware every time it resets. I don't know if Chaos is. I want to say Chaos is. Chaos also is not Jesus, unfortunately. You do see Jesus in one of Mary's flashbacks. I'm not exactly sure what Chaos is. He is Animon, the power and shit. So I'm like, so he's, my understanding, how I interpret it is, Chaos is the living manifestation of Christ's divinity. Like the actual power to make miracles. That's what Chaos is in a human form. He's not an angel. He's not Christ. But he's like the power of God. I think something close to that. So you have to go fight Wilhelm, and on the way you fight some other dudes. You fight Voyager, who is the Black Testament, who's the guy that killed Ziggy's wife and son. So Ziggy gets some catharsis kicking his ass, and then after that, you fight Telos, and the whole Mary Magdalene reveal is like fully put in. Which from the moment you fight Telos, I'm like, she has an attack. It's called Magdalene. I think it was 16. I don't know if the number was important. But I kept calling it the Magdalene laser. Like, she has a move called Is she Mary Magdalene? Is Cosmos Mary Magdalene? Is that what we're doing this? Okay, I guess that is what we're doing with this. Sure, dog. Then after that is you fight Kevin. And when Kevin shows up, he's like, Shion, I want us to be together forever. Come on, let's do this. And Shion's like, you know what? I want this. I want to be with the man I love. I've essentially doomed the universe by summoning the Gnosis. And I feel like all my friends are blaming me. And I also am apparently slowly dying. And I've just kind of realized that everything I thought about my life and my world is wrong. And I'm responsible for a lot of the problems in it. And I just don't want to do this anymore. And if I can be with the man I love forever, I'm down with that. So she betrays the party and joins Kevin. You fight them together. And you beat the shit out of both of them. And Alan goes on this really big, epic speech as Kevin is beating his ass. And Alan, who can't really fight back because it's Alan, just keeps getting up. And that convinces Shion to go, fuck you, Kevin. And she joins the party again. And then you fight Kevin. And Cosmos has this really cool ability that he's immune to, so it doesn't fucking matter. And you beat Kevin. And then it's time for Wilhelm. But you don't fight. You fight his big Zarathustra mech. And this is the relationship between Kevin and Shion is really weird to me. In the first game, it seemed like it was perfectly healthy, whether it's romantic or not, but I thought that it was. I don't remember if it really gets much attention in 2, and then in 3, it's super important. And you see that there's this genuine love, but then you see them when they're younger, and again, there's that weird age disparity. I'm like, how manipulative is this? Like, has he been grooming her? I don't know. And it feels icky. And then when he starts telling her, like, hey, you need to join me, you know, fuck your friends, fuck your family, all you need is me. I'm like, oh, this is some toxic, creepy shit. And I like that it is a toxic, it's not to say it's like, boy, I love me some toxic relationships, but it is an interesting thing to see examined and how manipulative he is of her and how dependent she is on him and how thoroughly unhealthy it is. And the vibe I was getting throughout the game, especially in like that whole section, is Kevin does not love her. Kevin has been playing her. Like, maybe there's some degree of affection, but it is, I need you for plot MacGuffin-y reasons, not for Shion Uzuki. But then you go into the next room, well, it's not directly the next room, there's a shit, final dungeon, there's some shit to do. But in the next area, as Wilhelm's, talking about all his shit and is, doing stuff, Kevin's like, no, I do really love Shion, and everything I do is so the two of us could be together, and then betrays Wilhelm, and Wilhelm's like, I knew you were going to do it. I'm not stupid. I don't care, Kevin. Which I thought was pretty funny. I'm like, so he did love her. I don't know how much I actually buy that, and okay. But then you fight Zarathustra, which I will say, I didn't say anything about it in gameplay. I probably should have. I actually enjoyed that fight a lot. I remember when I finally broke it, and it was at like the end of its break gauge for so fucking long. I was like, can I actually break it? Or is the gauge just there to mislead me? No, it shattered. I did not let it get another turn. Momo went off. Cosmos went off. They were just boost, like buff, boost, just destroyed it. It was really cool. It was really satisfying. Also, during the fight with Kevin, the second fight, like we were fighting him, Xion did get the final hit. I was like, that, I didn't really plan for that to happen, but Xion getting the final hit is incredibly satisfying. I think it was Momo that got the final hit on Zarathustra, which, given that she was the MVP of the whole fucking game, that kind of felt satisfying too. But so, humanity is now rejecting the reset and is strong enough to resist the reset. And my understanding is the implication is the reset button has been hit several times, and each time it gets hit, humanity gets a little more resistant to it. So when Wilhelm dies, not like, no, my plan has failed. It's almost kind of a, okay, maybe humanity is ready now. Hope it works out. So most of the cast is trying to escape. Chaos is staying behind to do some shit. Cosmo stays behind to keep them safe. Jin ends up going back to protect them. And Jin dies, and it's shitty, because I do like Jin, but he goes out like such a fucking badass, and then Kos dies too, but I'm not sure she actually died? I'm a little confused, like, is it just, you did your job, you can rest, and like, you'll awaken when needed, or it's like, you can rest now forever, soldier? I'm not exactly sure. Xion, I believe, at the end goes with Alan and Junior to Lost Jerusalem, and the rest of the party is just kind of left to do their own things. Then the credits roll. That's the end of the game. So in terms of the overall plot and themes, it is about humanity turning their will into power, going against a being that is so far above beyond good and evil that you cannot classify what they are doing, who is trying to have Zarathustra speak a reset into existence, and humanity saying no. And I think that's kind of neat. Does it all work? I don't think so, but I think most of it does. I find the characters genuinely interesting and or likable when because we just focus a lot on Xion in this game, and I feel like for the most part, I am heavily invested in Xion. When we're doing shit with Kos, I'm getting invested in her. Again, I was like, is the Mary Magdalene thing something that makes me go, yo, this is crazy? I mean, yeah, because it's a fucking weird idea, but I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm kind of more on the side of, that's kind of neat, I guess. And again, for a Kingdom Hearts mindscape, like, okay, Mary Magdalene's heartless, Cosmos, seeker of darkness, Kesod. Telos is the nobody of Mary Magdalene. I'm sorry, like, that's the funniest shit to me. It really is. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I think it's a bit too much for its own good. Sometimes I think it's a bit too vague for its own good. Like all the eternal recurrence shit, I was like, I kind of get this. Is this something that's been explained throughout the game? And I just missed it or wasn't picking up on it as much? Because it feels like you're kind of telling me all this right at the end. And I get it, but I'm not 100 on it. And I had to like look it up a bit more and be like, okay, this is what's going on. This is really cool and really interesting. I don't know if it's always conveyed the best. but I'd be lying if I said I didn't like it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a good time. So honestly, I think I give the narrative a 4. So that's a 4, and a 4 is 8. So that's an 11.5 out of 15. Which honestly feels... Is that about the same score I gave the first game? I think that feels kind of close to what I gave the first game. But it almost feels a little low. So I'm going to bump that up to a 4.5. So that's 4 and 4 is 8. 3 is, so I'd give it a 12 out of 15 overall. I feel like that sounds a little bit better. There's those minor issues with the presentation. I feel like there's aspects of the narrative that kind of get in its own way or underexplained, and Chapter 8 is fucking dog shit. But overall, I enjoyed Xenosaga 3 quite a lot. I enjoyed Xenosaga as a whole quite a lot. I'm glad I finally played it and was able to cross it off my gaming bucket list. I've played Xenoblade 1. I fucking hate the gameplay. I really, really don't like it. But I think the story... There's this one chunk that I really don't like in the middle. I think everything up to it is phenomenal. I think everything after it is phenomenal. It is really just a fucking bell curve. Xenoblade 2... I actually like the gameplay a lot in 2. I was able to... Like, a friend of mine had played it. He's like, here is how you play the game. And I was able to figure it out and have a good time. Pyro's super hot, so I can't hate the game. But it's like, there's moments where I think the writing gets in its own way, but I think the overall story and the lore, and especially the endgame when you get to Elysium, is phenomenal. I did not play 3, but I watched Clay play it. I was essentially like, I'm watching this as a TV show, and I thought it was great. It also, to me, kind of has this dip, but the dip is the very end where I'm like, this is what we're doing? That's kind of what it's all leading up to? Okay, I don't hate it. But, what? Like, I remember seeing this meme, and it's just kind of like, and like the average reaction to like Xenoblade 3 with the, like, it's like for the most part of the game, whoa, this is really fucking good. What the fuck? And then crying. I'm like, no, yeah, that's pretty accurate. And I haven't played Xenogears yet. So I am kind of doing this backwards, right? From Blade to Saga to Gears. I do plan on playing Xenogears next year. It's one of, like I kind of said, how Xenosaga for me was one of my big bucket list items that I wanted to get done for 2020. I almost said 2022. For 2023, Xenogears is one of those for 2024. I am very much looking forward to it. I do have access to it. I don't know when I'm going to start it, because I've got enough shit that I want to do, and then Persona's coming out, and then I have to kind of go through some of that other shit on the list. I want to play some Tales games. We're going to throw Xenogears in there somewhere and hopefully get it done. Xenosaga is really good. I would genuinely recommend giving it a shot. I don't know if I would recommend the anime. I haven't seen it. I really don't know how good of a job it does, but good shit.